It's just a friendship, it's just at this point, it's just a long friendship. I'm trying to think. We've known each other for 17 years or so. He's my mentor. He's my friend. He's one of those guys, very special guy for me.
Swing, there's a drive deep into right field, way back there. Goodbye! A home run for the game and for the pennant.
Jon Miller, Hall of Famer, voice of the San Francisco Giants, a baseball storyteller for almost half a century. Every great story has a great beginning. Miller's story starts on a chilly April night at Candlestick Park in 1962.
I was just dying to see Willie Mays in action in person, and I kept nagging my dad to let's go to a game. So finally, in 1962, he and my godfather took me to a game, the first Giants-Dodger matchup of the season. And I was already dyed-in-the-wool fan. I was 10 years old and just nuts about baseball, and I was following everything I could get my hands on. Well, the first game that I saw, the Giants beat the Dodgers, and they beat the Dodgers 19-8. It had such an impact on me that I, to this day, can still quote the game totals. The Dodgers out-hit the Giants and lost by 11 runs. It's kind of unusual. Willie Mays hit a home run, the first game I ever saw. I even remember the paid attendance. It was a Tuesday night game at Candlestick in mid-April, 32,819, the paid attendance at Candlestick. So years later, after I actually was doing Giants games myself, I often wondered, wow, what if the Giants had lost that game to the Dodgers 8-0, and it was just a terrible game? Would I have been as big a fan?
At that same game in 1962, as fascinating as the game was, Miller also had his eye on the broadcasting booth.
In that first game, we sat in the upper deck. I could see down into the broadcast booths. I was watching Russ Hodges and Lon Simmons down in the radio booth almost as much as I was watching the game. And then I saw a broadcaster grab, right after calling a pitch, he said, there's a curveball, no one outside, ball one. And then he grabbed a big handful of French fries, stuffed them all into his mouth at the same time. Must have been 14 French fries. And now, while he was still chewing, the next pitch came in, and he didn't miss a beat. He broadcast the next pitch. He says, and there's a fastball, and that's low and outside, ball three. And as a 10-year-old, I said to myself right then and there, that is the life for me.
Baseball is a game unlike any other. Storytelling moves the game forward. As a broadcaster, Miller agrees.
You try to be entertaining, and you try to get some laughs. You try to make the whole thing enjoyable. You hope that the game itself is really enjoyable and really compelling, in which case the whole thing is so much easier. Now you just try not to screw it up. Just tell the people what's going on. We all want to believe that people are tuned in for the whole broadcast. But the reality is most people tune in at given moments that, a majority of your audience may have just tuned in the last minute or so. Well, the first thing they need is the score. They're not with you. You might have a funny story. Well, they may not be laughing because you haven't told them the score yet. Once you tell them the score, now they can enjoy the game and they can enjoy your stories and whatever else you're doing. But if you make them wait for that score, now they're angry with you.
Telling a story in baseball paints a picture. Description is one of, if not the most important aspects of play-by-play on the radio, besides giving the score, of course. And Miller paints pictures like nobody else in the business.
On radio, you're the eyes and ears of the listener. You're trying to put them in the ballpark. Really listen closely. You want to grab them. You don't want to let a hitter just go into the box and just say his name. You don't want to say Pablo Sandoval comes up now with one out, base is empty. You want to say Pablo Sandoval comes up now, a switch hitter facing the right-hander, batting left-handed. Pablo gets up fairly close to the plate in a closed-up stance, holds the bat high over his head. You want to paint this vivid picture and hope that you're grabbing somebody because you're doing that, who now they have this image of Pablo in the batter's box. So on the radio, you want to grab the listener and describe things so that they become an active participant with you, that they're taking your descriptions and creating verbal pictures in their mind about what's going on.
Dave Raymond, voice of the Texas Rangers, worked with Miller as a fill-in guy for the Giants in 2003, and he recalled a play in 2005 while Miller was on ESPN's Sunday Night Baseball.
There was one call that he made once. It was so weird. I had done some Giants games. I was doing some Orioles games. I was at home once watching a Sunday Night Baseball game. It was one of the first games of the year, 2005. A typical John, he's getting so much great detail into the call. There's a swing and a drive. That one into the corner. Base hit for Smith. Molina rounding second. He's lumbering into third base. He scored, and it was a big moment in the game and everything. And I thought, for some reason, you never know why things grab you the way they do. But the way he worked lumbering in so perfectly and effortlessly and appropriately, because it was a kind of slogging, slow catcher type, and he definitely was lumbering. And I thought, God, that's genius. That just slides out automatically for him in a big moment of the game. No thought, no consideration given beforehand. It's just his natural reaction is freaking perfect.
Behind every good story is a good storyteller. Raymond says Miller uses his voice in an interesting way to keep his audience listening.
I think John has a number of amazing qualities and abilities, right, that make him unique to all the rest of us. John takes whatever presentation, but he makes these pregnant pauses in unusual spots, right? I just paused right there after the word spots because that was the completion of a thought before you get to the next thought. John would say, he makes these pregnant pauses, in unusual spots. Dave, I was just listening to your audio cassette tape. It's like my audio cassette tape. I was in my car. I was going down to get an oil change. You kind of leaning in all the time, like, you're going to do what? And oil change. Just the way he speaks and that voice quality and everything is so unique, and everybody's is so unique, which is sort of cool. It's just, yeah, he's a genius.
Storytelling is all about description, being articulate, style, voice, and so much more. John Schrader, current professor at the University of Nebraska-Lincoln and former partner of John Miller with the San Jose Earthquakes soccer team, said Miller encapsulates every aspect of storytelling.
Well, what John does is he's almost like a workshop in sports broadcasting when you listen to him call a game. And I've used John Miller over the years as a great example of not only the great storyteller, but technically he is so good, and he's always prepared for the moment, and he makes the big calls. The great Barry Bonds home run gets the same kind of attention that a double play gets in the middle of the season. Not that you make those calls the same, but he approaches the job with such professionalism, with such precision, with such a great style. His presence is unmistakable in that regard.
Everybody standing here at 24 Willie Mays Plaza. An armada of nautical craft gathered in McCovey Cove beyond the right field wall. Bonds one home run away from history, and he swings, and there's a long one deep into right center field, way back there. It's gone! A home run into the center field bleachers to the left of the 421-foot marker. An extraordinary shot to the deepest part of the yard. And Barry Bonds with 756 home runs. He has hit more home runs than anyone who has ever played the game.
John Miller is one of the best broadcasters in Major League Baseball, but anyone can call balls and strikes. Not everyone can tell a story day in and day out, whether the team is 62-100 or World Series champions. Miller is more than a legendary broadcaster, he is a Hall of Fame storyteller. For 90.3 FM KRNU, I'm Brent Bartlett.